Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. We are really broadcasting worldwide today. I'm Dr. Chiara Gabbi, and I'm one of the directors of the Eurocolangionet mentoring program. The Eurocolangionet is a program founded by the European Commission under the Cost Action Funding Mechanism that aims at supporting research cooperation in the field of cholangiocarcinoma. In 2020, during the pandemic, we decided to leverage all the expertise present in our network in order to support the career growth of junior investigators, especially during the pandemic, the special time of the pandemic. Last year, we had, at the end of 2021, we started the second edition of our program. The program is currently ongoing, and we are working with mentors and mentees from more than 10 different countries worldwide. Together with the mentoring program, we really wanted to use our network to serve not only junior investigators in our field of cholangiocarcinoma, but really junior investigators from any field of liver research and medical research. So we organize a cycle of mentoring lectures, and this is our third lecture, in order really to inspire and support the career growth of junior investigators. As I said, this is our third lecture. We will have a really special speaker today. You will meet him in a few minutes. But before, I want to acknowledge our partner. We are organizing the lectures together with the European Cholangiocarcinoma Network, the International Cholangiocarcinoma Research Network, and the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation. Our lectures are also endorsed by the European Association for the Study of Liver and by the United European Gastroenterology. And finally, I want to acknowledge University La Sapienza in Rome. University La Sapienza is the grant holder for the cost action. I want to organize all the Eurocolangionet managing committee, in particular Professor Banales and Professor Cardinale, who are really supporting our lectures. Together with me in coordinating the mentorship program is Professor Sio Masias, and I leave the floor to her to introduce our guest moderators today.
Thank you, Chiara. Hi, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to wish you all the best for this new year. And I would like to thank you for joining this webinar, which I'm sure is going to be very interesting, with an exceptional speaker, Professor Paolo Angeli, editor of one of the journals in which all of us want to publish our studies. Let me introduce our two moderators who have been mentees in the first call of the mentoring program. Francesca Biancaniello from Sapienza University of Rome, and Lynn Nguyen from the University of Amsterdam. Welcome, and thank you for both of you for agreeing to participate today as moderators. And I give you the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rocio and Chiara, for your invitation. It is a great honor to me to introduce you Professor Paolo Angeli, who is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Hepatology with an impact factor 25. He is full professor of internal medicine and chief of the unit of internal medicine and hepatology of the Department of Medicine at the University of Padova in Italy. His main field of scientific interest is clinical hepatology, with a particular focus on cirrhosis, acute and chronic liver failure, and liver transplantation. He has authored more than 250 peer-reviewed articles that have shaped the clinical management of patients with cirrhosis. In 2018, he was chair of the EASL Clinical Practice Guidelines on the management of patients with decompensated cirrhosis. Professor Angeli has served in the Journal of Hepatology's editorial team as associate editor for the last 8 years before becoming editor-in-chief. And we are very grateful to him for joining us for this lecture. So thank you very much, Professor Angeli. Please.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Jesus, Vincenzo, Chiara, Rocio, and you and Lynn as moderator, but I want to say hello to everyone who is connected today all around the world in this global cholangio network, you know. Let me share my screen. I apologize if I will show you some slides I already shown in my previous talk to EuroCholangioNet, but I understood that today we have a more global attendance. So let me say that I'm very happy to be here in my first 2022 talk, speaking about how to write and to publish a good paper in scientific journals. But I'm very happy also to show you that as editor-in-chief of the journal, we have taken into account a lot papers on cholangiocarcinoma. During the last year, we have published 30 full original articles on CCA. And if we look to our special section dedicated to hepatic and biliary malignancy or cancer, you can see that in comparison with ACC, after a negative stop, we rebalanced the situation in between ACC and CCA. I think this is great. And I want to inform you that we have already planned for 2022 a series of mini reviews dedicated to CCA, as you can see from this slide. So please continue to send your best original paper to the journal, because we are very, very interested to publish paper on CCA. Let me go now to my topic, and I will start saying that there is not a magic button to publish a good paper in scientific journal. One of my mentors taught me that to write and to publish a good paper is something like to win a soccer game in between you, the author, the editor, and the reviewer. And you know, if you want to win the game, you need several things: time, outstanding knowledge of the topic you are dealing with, a strong will and personal commitment, inspired critical thinking that probably is the less common gift of nature among researchers, because everyone thinks that they are writing the best paper that never appear in literature. And finally, most important, novel and solid data availability. So I have imagined a 16-step labor to write and to publish a good paper. And the first one is to ask to yourself, why I want to write this paper? So you should ask to yourself some specific questions. First, have I done something new and really interesting? Have I done something that is really challenging? Is what I found really connected to a currently hot topic in research in clinical field? And most important, the last question, can I provide some solution throughout my findings to the care of patients, to the public health, or to address future research on this topic? If all your answers are yes, please go ahead, write the paper and try to publish it in a good journal. But if there is some no among the answers, think a lot if it is worth to write this paper. Of course, you can decide to write this paper and to send the paper to a journal with a low impact factor. But if you decide as such, do not do it just to have an extra publication. This is not good. We have a problem in the editorial world, that is the problem of hyper-prolific authors. There is not a common definition of hyperprolific authors. So in 2016, we defined them as those who publish at least 22 papers in the year. That means to publish a paper every 5 days. And you can see that according to this arbitrary definition, the number of hyperprolific authors rises from 4 in 22 to 81 in 2016. Well, when we asked this 81 hyperprolific author, according to this definition, if they met the 4 criteria for authorship that are the following. I want to remind you: substantial contribution to the conception or design of the work, or the acquisition, analysis, and interpretation of data for the work, and is probably the most important word in this slide, drafting the work or revising it critically, not for language, but for important intellectual content, and final approval of the version to be published, and agreement to be accountable for all the aspects of the work. We asked that to the 81 hyperprolific authors if they met these 4 criteria. Most of them didn't answer at all. And most of those who answered said no. So again, do not write a paper just to have an extra publication. Let me go to the second step. What type of manuscript to write? You have 3 main choices. Full original paper, the most important ones, letter, short communication, or reviews, positional paper, or perspective. So you should ask to yourself, or even to a colleague that may give you a more objective view on your findings. Are my findings enough to support a full original paper? Or it is better to move to a letter? Have I the need to publish my data as soon as possible? So to write a short, rapid communication, but please remind that you can ask a fast also for a full original article. Finally, if you are planning to write a review, a positional paper, a perspective, you should ask to yourself or to a colleague, have I enough knowledge, recognized knowledge and prestige to propose myself as author or co-author of a review to the journal? Because, you know, usually reviews are commissioned by personal invitation from the editorial board. Third step, to choose the right target journal. And the first suggestion is to avoid gambling. To avoid gambling by scattering the same manuscript to different journals at the same time. You can be discovered because several different journals entrusted the same reviewers. And if you are discovered, this is a misconduct. Second, how to choose the target journal. It is better to look at the main article on which you have based your work, your hypothesis, your main question. This let it possible to narrow the list of potential target journals. And then look to the last issue of this potential target journal to see what type of article they have published on the same topic, to check the style of the article, and then make your final choice. Without forgetting to check the rejection rate of the journal, because if the rejection rate is high, higher than 90%, for example, you should be very sure that your data are very new, very solid, very compelling. Otherwise, it's better to use humility, modesty, but concreteness, and to send the paper to a journal with a lower impact. This will save your time and the failure in publishing. Let me go to the fourth step. The first step is not how to draft the paper. The first step is to check the guide for authors. You should do it at the beginning of the process, just at the end of the process. This is the way you have to prepare appropriately your manuscript, using the proper text layout, using the proper format for references and illustration. Please take care that the poorly prepared manuscript is perceived badly by the editors, by the reviewers. They feel this like a lack of respect for the journal and for themselves. It is probably the worst way to start the relationship with the editorial board. And then we should focus on the structure of the manuscript. And the structure of the manuscript has been defined in 1979 by the American National Standard Institute as an IMRAD format. What does it mean? Introduction, methods, result, discussion. But this is just a vision of the structure. When you start to draft a paper, I suggest to start from the result, including illustrations, so figures and tables. Why? Because this is the only way you have to have a clear idea of the scientific relevance of your work. After the result, you can draft the methods, then the discussion with a clear-cut conclusion, and finally, the introduction. Then you can think about the abstract, the title page, including keywords, acknowledgement, and finally, you should complete the list of references. In doing all this, try to be concise and well-focused. Remember that the shorter, the better. Don't put many questions in the introduction. Don't insert too many findings, particularly secondary findings in the results, because this makes your work too diffuse and less compelling. Avoid salami science. You know, sometimes it is better to leave also some detail regarding your main findings, being sure that reviewers, editor ask for them. This can facilitate the process, the relationship with the editorial board, can facilitate a final positive decision of the revision process. The result is the section which responds to the question, what have I found? It is a crucial section that should be drafted in a clear and logical sequence. Result should be arranged around illustrations. In the result, you can use an active voice or a passive voice, but use always the same. In the result, you should insert only data, no comments, so no reference here. What about figures and tables? Remember that an illustration is worth 1,000 words. So illustrations are the driving force of your paper. You can prefer table if you want to stress number. You can prefer figures if you want to compare mean gradients. But anyway, Each illustration should be self-explanatory with a complete legend. Reviewers, editors aid to go throughout all the text of the manuscript, looking for definition, categories, abbreviation that are in illustration but not reported in their legends. Let me go now to methods. Well, if your methods are quite original, you should describe them very, very in detail. Otherwise, the paper can be rejected. A researcher should be able to reproduce your experiment on the basis of the description of the methods that you have given in this section. If you have used a well-established method, you can give just a brief summary of them in this section, moving part of them even to the supplementary material or inserting key references. What about discussion? Here, the section responded to this question: what do the results mean? This is the easiest section to write, but the hardest to get right. And this is crucial because a huge number of manuscripts are rejected for unforced and weak discussion. The discussion should be built around the result without reiterating the results. And here you should compare your result with those that has been already published, including those that are not in keeping with yours. Do not ignore them, but try to convince reviewers, editors, and then readers that your results are more complete and more correct. You know, it is better to start the discussion, the first paragraph, addressing the main question, the main hypothesis that you will insert at the end of the production. And you can give here the interpretation, your interpretation or your measure findings. Avoid statements that go beyond what the result really means. You can do some speculation, but rooted in fact, not on imagination. It is important not to use in the discussion categories, abbreviation, terms that were not cleared in the previous section of the paper. Please mind also that when discussing your result, you should use the past tense. When quoting previously published result, you should use the present tense. Do not forget to highlight strength and limitation of your study, extension, implication of your study, but be conservative in doing it. And finally, do not forget to comment some important secondary findings of your work. Usually, the last paragraph of the discussion is represented by conclusion, but in some journal, conclusion represent a separate and special section of the paper. So in the conclusion, you should give the scientific justification of your work. So you should avoid some common mistakes, to list again your major findings, to give a trivial statement of your. Again, in the conclusion, you should justify why you made this work, why the work is relevant. You can also indicate the extensions, uses when appropriate, and highlight the need of further investigation on this topic, giving some indication on how to do that. And finally, you go back to the introduction. Here you should highlight the gap in knowledge on the specific topic you are dealing with. Moving down, from a general point of view, advanced cirrhosis is characterized by many complications. For example, moving down to a specific point of view, hepatorenal syndrome is one of the most dramatic among them. Closing with the main question or hypothesis, terlipressin by continuous intravenous infusion is thought to be safer than terlipressin given by intravenous boluses, but nobody has proved it before. So it is clear your main question, your main hypothesis, on which all the rest of the manuscript is based. Of course, here you should insert some key references quoting the papers already published on this topic, but avoid to insert too many references. So avoid to quote the works that are not significant for their paper, for your paper. Then the abstract, that is the advertisement of your article. Let me say that most of the readers, but I want to say also some editors and reviewers, do not go beyond the abstract if the abstract is not self-explanatory and clear. So the abstract is really a mini paper. It should include a background, the main question, a summary of the methods, the main findings, and a clear-cut conclusion. Probably you should draft the abstract several times before to get the right version. What about the title? We are flooded by hundreds of papers on specific topics. And when we go on PubMed, for example, we select what we want to read on the basis of the title and probably on the basis of the authors. So the title is crucial. The title should be clear, declarative, and compelling. And first of all, it should be short, no more than 10, 15 words, avoiding technical jargons, avoiding abbreviation if they are not necessary and well established. Let me go now to the title page. I want to focus only on the keywords. The keywords are essential for citation. So check again the guide for authors, and you can learn how many words you can insert in this section. And please avoid keywords with a broad meaning and avoid words that are already present in the title. Let me go now to references. Let me say that it is now easier to avoid mistake because we all are using some software such as Mendeley or EndNote. But please check the style of citation according to the guide for authors and check the citation in the text of the references. Finally, the cover letter. The cover letter is not a formality, it's an opportunity. It's the way you are selling what you have produced. So you should be smart in writing the cover letter. The cover letter should include some information, the manuscript title, the type of article, the submission rate, the corresponding author contact information, a brief description of your work, highlighting the scientific value of your work, and of course, a statement that your paper has not been previously published and is not currently under consideration by another journal. You can add some other information. For example, you presented the content of the paper in a meeting and an editor of the journal invited you to send the paper to the journal. You can mention this in the cover letter. You can suggest potential reviewers, giving their contact information. If needed, you can exclude other reviewers, but please avoid some mistake. Avoid to be wrong about the name of the journal. It happened. Avoid to be wrong about the name of the editor-in-chief. It happens. Use the wording "Dear Editor-in-Chief" if you have some doubt about his proper name and surname. Don't use "Dear Sir." Avoid humor. Avoid a list of people that can endorse your paper or your finding. And finally, the 16th step, check the proof before to submit the paper. Some important point. Are definition, categories, terms used consistently throughout the paper? Do number in abstract, match number in text and tables? Are references updated? Do citation in text match references? And the language. It is a pity to have a paper rejected on the basis of the language, you know? So spend time to check the language. I think I gave you enough suggestions to win your game. And so I think you will be able to write a good paper and to get it published in a good scientific journal. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Angeli. We really liked your lecture, and I think we learned a lot from it. I have some questions in mind, but please, I will ask the audience as well to give your questions in the chat or in the Q&A, then we can read them for you, and then we can ask Professor Angeli the questions. So what I have for a question is, what are the first things you do when you receive a new manuscript and everything is complete? So all the references are correct and the necessary material is present. And yeah, I was curious.
The first thing is to read the paper. This is crucial, you know. Then if I think that the content of the paper is relevant for the journal, according to the topic, I will send the paper to a senior editor, who then decide who will be the associate editor, who then decide who will be the reviewers of the paper. But it is important to read appropriately the submission, you know, to have a clear-cut idea about its scientific relevance according to our aims, according to our position in the ranking.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can understand. And do you, when there were some present manuscripts uploaded and you agreed to publishing these manuscripts, do you check about the title and subject of these manuscripts to republish them again, or
yeah, we have a good guy in the office who is in charge of this. So sometimes he suggests to change the title, to change something in the abstract, and it's a very good guy in doing it.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. I saw a question coming up. This question, let me just check, was from Vincenzo Cardinale. If at the stage of proof editing, you realize that the references are not updated, what is the best to do? Thank you so much for the great lecture.
If you realize that your references are not updated, please update them, you know. This is relevant, because if you send a good paper forgetting to cite one of the main articles published on the same topic in the last years. This is perceived badly by the reviewers, particularly if the reviewer is an author of this paper. So this is not just the best way to start the revision process. We are human, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think it's important as well, and especially to give this correct, and especially when you're using EndNote or Medellin or something like that, it's quite easy to update your references as well. Yeah. Francesca, do you have any questions maybe as well?
Yeah, actually, I have some question about reviewers. How could we deal with reviewers who have opposing views of the manuscript and perhaps suggest opposite comments?
This happens, and usually we have a discussion every Monday evening with all the senior editors, and so we decide all together what to do.
Thank you very much. And since we're speaking about reviewers, how important it is to have some side experiments. So we invest in other lines, for example, in a basic science paper, in an extra animal model that we don't put in the original article, and then we can just skip it for the reviewers.
Yeah, so I'm not in charge as far as basic science. Our senior editor in this field is Frank Take. But you know, it is important to have in a basic paper all the evidence it is possible to have. So on cellular level, on different experimental model, this will give a feeling that you have done a complete basic work, you know? And it is more easy that it can be accepted by the Journal of Hep. Now we have also the single set approach, you know, so the basic science is very complex now.
That's great. So Chiara is asking if you have any suggestion on how to manage resubmissions.
Well, you know, if you have a decision of a rejection with possibility to resubmit after major revision, you are in a good process. So if you are able to address the main question raised by the reviewers and by the editors, usually your paper will be accepted. So it is not so bad to receive a first decision of rejection with possibility of submission after major revision. It will depend about the points raised by the reviewers and by the editors, and by your ability to address them, the possibility to address them.
Yeah, I think that's very important. We have another question from Jesus Banales, and he's asking, are young investigators involved as reviewers in JHEP as well? Is there a policy behind? And he thinks this is a fantastic lecture as well.
Yeah, I'm very proud to say that we take into account a lot the age and the gender of the reviewers. We want to be very, very balanced, you know, in choosing reviewers and editors. And so do you take into account, we have a lot of young investigators as reviewers of the journal, and I'm very, very enthusiastic about their work. They are doing really a great job.
And what are the differences that you see then between older and or younger investigators in the reviewing status?
You know, the young investigators really will revise the paper in a more detailed way and in a shorter time, as a mean, eh?
Yeah,
as an average, because they are enthusiastic about the work, you know, and they want to give you the idea that they are doing it properly. And again, I'm very happy on their behavior as reviewers and also as associate editors, because some associate editors are young, you know.
Thank you. There's another question from, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, Rocchio Macias, and he's asking, do you accept reviews sent without an invitation?
Sometimes, yes. For example, last week I received a proposal of a reviews from a guy from China, who is the leader of the CHES, that is the China's Alliance for the Management of Portal Hypertension, on the innovative tools, non-invasive tools to measure portal pressure. And so I asked to my senior editors what they think about this proposal. And apparently the initial comment is positive. So we will invite probably him to write the review. So I suggested to the associate editors to propose authors for reviews, including themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm. Perfect, thank you. I think we have a few more questions as well. One of the first questions I saw was from Chiara. How has COVID affected your work as editor-in-chief?
Well, in 2020, we have received increasing number of papers. Not totally related to COVID, but in a significant proportion related to COVID. Now we are receiving a decreasing number of papers. And I think that COVID-19 is affecting the research work.
Mm-hmm.
This is my fear, you know. We will check the number, but during the last 3-4 months, we have received a decreasing number of original papers. I'm not speaking about COVID-related papers now. I'm speaking about full original papers. And this is a fear that we have. We will check the number and we will see. But yeah. I have the feeling that the COVID-19 has delayed the protocol research, has delayed so the research activity in some.
Yeah, I think so too. In Netherlands, for example, a lot of studies had to be stopped due to the COVID pandemic. Yeah, unfortunately, we
will see.
Yeah,
we will see. You know, we are facing a dramatic situation. We are happy to maintain the level of the journal, to maintain the work in the office, in spite of the difficulties we faced in this difficult time.
Yeah, true. Francesca, do you have another question maybe?
Yeah, well, there was also another question from Chiara regarding the COVID works. So what suggestion do you have for scientists who want to publish in this field and wanting their work to be published as soon as possible?
Sorry, I didn't get the point.
So if there are any suggestion on authors who are working in the COVID field, and since there was a large amount of literature,
Okay, you know, the COVID in hepatology is not a major problem now, because we publish almost all we could have published last year and the year before. So it is not so easy to publish now something new on COVID-19 related to the liver. But if you have something new, we will be happy to evaluate it, to publish it. It's not so easy because, you know, the COVID-19 has a deep impact on almost all the organs, all the system, but its impact on the liver has been analyzed in almost all the aspects, you know. We will see if something new can appear, but it is not so easy now.
Thank you. So since we are talking about a mentorship lecture, Vincenzo is asking if you suggest to be trained in revising papers as a good way to be mentored for young investigators.
Of course, I will be happy to do. Thank you very much.
I saw another question coming up. This question is from Jesus again. What is your opinion about social media, Twitter and Facebook, in a new way to disseminate scientific results? Are we in a new era of education or dissemination?
I hope we are in a new era, and Jesus knows how important, in my view, is the role of the social media. So we will try to develop the dissemination strategy of the journal throughout the social media in the best way we can. We even performed a controlled clinical trial on the use of Twitter to better disseminate the content on the journal, you know. And we have personalized the Twitter to disseminate better our messages. This is our policy now, you know.
Is there someone at JEP who's dedicated on social media or not, or is everybody involved?
No, we have two special editors dedicated to the use of social media and to their development. And let me say that they are doing really a great job, I'm very happy about what they've done up to now, and I'm very happy about their plan for the future.
Yes. And in line with that, how do you think about graphical abstracts?
We have the graphical abstract. We are thinking about other possible tools, but you know, this is in some way a plan that we have for the next year to implement the use of social media, and we will start also the use of the easel studio to propose something like journal club, highlighting the best paper accepted in the main section of the journal, with the reviewers, the editors, the authors, so to stimulate an interactive discussion, you know, that go beyond what has been presented in the paper.
Yeah, sounds really good. It's I think I will like that. Okay, thank you. Francesca, do you have another question maybe?
Well, I didn't see any other question from the audience actually. Okay, there it is. So actually, Vincenzo asks how we can make network increase the relevance of certain topics for example, is coding extrahepatic bile duct conditions, which are an area which many specialists can be interested into.
It's a great idea. I think that the development of networks and consortia have improved the quality of the research in hepatology. I want to mention the cholangionet, but I want to mention also the CLIF, the Baveno consortium and other, the consortium for autoimmune disease. I think that working together is the best way to advance in research. We should learn from cardiologists, for example, that publish unbelievable trials, from intensive care physician that publish the unbelievable trial in thousands of patients. You know, it's time to move forward, network and consortia in hepatology, but we are doing it.
I think that with this final consideration, we can thank all the organizers of this lecture and also for the effort that they're putting towards ours, that we are young investigators and learning how to interact with each other and improve our networking. So thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. And again, please send your paper to the journal. We will consider them, and if possible, we will publish them.
For sure. A big applause.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Chiara, if you want to.
Yes, so thank you, Professor Angeli. On behalf of me, Rocio Macias, and really all the Eurocholangionet network, we are really grateful. And I'm sure you have inspired many, not only junior investigators, but us all, because actually we are dealing every day with this game, with this also tournament of getting our work published. So thank you. And Rocio, do you want to add something? If not, I'm really pleased to announce our fourth mentorship lecture. It will be on February 11, 2022. Actually, February 11 is the International Day of Women in Science. So we will talk about gender balance in medical research. So how to promote gender balance in your study design, both if you are doing clinical research, basic science, and how to implement gender balance policy in order really to support balance and to support also personalized medicine, not only in liver research, but actually in the wide medical field. So we look forward to meeting you all again on February 11. I thank again all of you who participated in the lecture, and really thanks again, Professor Angeli. You were really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Jesus. Bye-bye. Thank you, Vincenzo, Chiara. And
Bye.
all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Arrivederci. Grazie.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
And thank you, Lynn and Francesca. You really did a great job in moderating. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have conducted the webinar very well. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. It was a great lecture. So pleased to help.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Vincenzo, also for always supporting this initiative.
No, thank you, Chiara. And I join. Thanks, of course, to Gitus that always help